Hello, my name is Dale Deerdorf, and I'm your facilitator and instructor for MSE 608B. This is our Week 4 course lecture, and what I'd like to talk to you about this week is something critical to the course development that we've been walking you through, and that's going to be what we refer to as high technology teams, high-tech teams, high-tech environments, high-tech organizations. And as I'm going through this material, I'll provide a variety of resources for you. But one of the big ones I wanted to point out up front is based on putting teams together, and it's by Katzenbach, and it's the book Teams on Top, or Teams at the Top. He has got a variety of really good reads that he has put together, and it is really based on your performance. He talks about what you need to bring to the picture and how teams that perform at a high level are different than teams that don't perform at a high level. What those characteristics are, not only from a leadership perspective and a management perspective, but from what it looks like for you as you're on that team, what the characteristics of it are, what you bring to the team. So this week's lecture is going to go in a couple different directions. One, we're going to talk about you personally, and I'm going to give you some insights on yourself. And then we're going to talk about the necessity to have a possibly different level of skills or to use different skills than you're currently using if you're working in a high-tech environment or on a high-tech team. So let's go ahead and jump into the material. And the first thing I want to do is let's just start with a couple operational definitions. Let's make sure we understand exactly what we're talking about. So when we look at the material that we've got, and we ask ourselves, so what is a team? And there are a lot of different descriptions, a lot of different definitions of what a team is, but basically it's any group of people organized to work together interdependently and cooperatively to accomplish a purpose or a goal. They're aligned to try to create the same, I'll call it, performance necessary to achieve that milestone or goal. And on a high-tech team, that might be the end of a project. It might be completing something that has a technical component to it. So when we talk about, what is a high technology team, what is the difference between a regular team and a high technology team? Well, a high technology team typically is, a high-tech company, and that company is in an economic and industry sector where they specialize on technical innovation. They are looking at the emphasis associated with that. So there's different technical skills required potentially in a high technology team environment. Definitely different, but at the same time there's an overlap. So it's still a team, it just has high technology teams as far as the skill sets required. So I know that some of that's confusing and you're going, well, give me an example of a high technology team. Give me an example of a company that's a high technology team. So what I did was I put together just a short list, and this is just a short list of what I refer to as high technology teams working for high technology companies. And if you take a look at the images, the logos off to the side, I mean, when we think about it, all of these companies are exploring high technology. There's a ton more, but I just wanted to point out some of the basic ones. So when we talk about biomedical, Amgen, Medtronics, any of the biopharmaceutical or the biopharma companies that are out there working on developing new drugs, working on creating new technologies for analyzing things, the machinery that goes into a heart valve, a heart pump, all of those from a biomedical standpoint are essential, and they have high technology teams. They have people that work on those teams. Those are high technology teams. Advanced engineering. When we think about NASA, when we think about Boeing, when we think about Boston Scientific and companies like that have engineers, scientists, participants that are in the STEM environment, that have, mathematicians, chemists, things like that. Those people are high technology workers. They're working on high technology teams, and they have a different skill set. They have different skills that they bring typically than what you might find on a generic team. So there could potentially be the difference between a regular team and a high technology team, depending on what your interpretation is. Scientific, next generation automotive, BMW down to Volkswagen, Tesla with the electric car and the challenges coming out with that. All of those have technological advancements that are happening. They have research people that are working in those organizations. Engineers, project managers, program managers, all of them supporting high technology teams, helping put that together. Technology manufacturing, when we talk about additive manufacturing, you know, the ability to move from laser sintering into the ability to do additive manufacturing, those technological advances that have made and will continue to be made, where we'll start to make and we'll start to blend these two skill sets together. So we'll start talking about technology manufacturing, and we'll start talking about replicating human parts, creating DNA. So there's going to be a blend of these type of companies that's going to happen. Energy systems, when we talk about solar, when we talk about hydrogen power, when we talk about nuclear power, ion-powered type of vehicles in the next 5 to 10 years. Space exploration, going to places that we thought we would never be able to go to, but we are putting vehicles there, we're putting people into the environment of going into space now, where it can be a travel type of experience. Cloud data, when we start talking about all of this high-tech information that we're pulling together and it going up into the cloud. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Think about all of the different people involved in all of these organizations that are working, and they're working in what we refer to as high-tech team environments. They are high technology team members, team workers. Now, does that mean it's a good team, or does it mean it's a great team? You know, and we've all worked on good teams. Even if it wasn't a high technology team, we've all experienced that good team. It's something that really is fun to work on. The only thing better than working on a good team is working on a great team. And if you think back into your own experiences, what was the difference between a good team and a great team? A great team may have had a great leader that helped get everybody together, that rallied everybody together. Or it may be that the communication that happened on that type of team was seamless. It was just this environment where it's almost like everything was automatic. I already knew what other people were doing. And that's the handshake that I've seen. When we talk about a great team, we talk about people performing at the level of when I needed something, someone had it for me, and I was able to hand things off. That integrated, environment where everything seemed to work. Now, that doesn't mean that we didn't have challenges, we didn't have problems. We were able to overcome them. Now, let's look at the other side of that. Let's look at the inverse of that. And I know this is another one of those. We've all worked on a team that just, I'll be honest with you, it just plain sucked. It was terrible. And a lot of times, the reason that a team sucked was we didn't have the right people in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. We had people working outside of what they should have been working on. They weren't happy. We didn't communicate well. All of those things happen on teams. So high technology teams also have the same challenges that regular teams do. And there are high technology teams out there that I guarantee you would come back and say, man, that was a high technology team I worked on and it sucked. So there are disadvantages on high technology teams also that prevent it from being a high performing team. And those are two different levels there. So when we start talking about high technology teams doing average work, the assumption is always that a high technology team is doing something new, exciting, different. They're dealing with innovation, entrepreneurship. They still have the same problems, the same performance issues. They still have the same type of, I'll call it people issues, those soft skill issues that we run into on any team in any environment. So let's start talking about the challenges that we have personally as people. So let's just do a little bit of Brain 101 research. And if you're going to work on a high technology team, somebody might tell you, well, you need to really think about the skills that you bring, are they in the right quadrants? And by right quadrants, typically when we take a look at brain mapping, or we look at personality profiling or thinking preferences, there's always this assumption that there's a right brain and a left brain methodology. So the right brain people are the analytical people. They're the ones that come up with, a lot of that type of conceptualizing. And then the right brain people are they're the creative ones. They're the artists. They're the ones that deal with things that are, more in line with things from a creative or originating standpoint. And then we have upper brain versus lower brain. So the technology based on, is someone upper brained or lower brained? Upper brain is more cognitive. It means that you're doing more from a thinking perspective. Lower brain is more visceral. That's more hands-on. So when we talk about a high technology team and we try to put a team together, what do I need? What kind of person am I looking for? Well, I think what you're going to find is something that's very interesting. So I've got a little quick guessing survey set up for you here. And I'd like you to take a minute or two while we're doing this lecture, and I want you to look at these questions. And I'm going to ask you, each of the cards, all 4 cards, have got words. And I want you to look at all 4 of these different cards, and I want you to tell me which of the colors you think represents you. Which one, if you look at it, you say, that one's it. That's the one that represents me. And then you can look at another one and go, and that one over there, that one is not me. There's no way that is a description of me. But one of these cards, and possibly 2 of them, but typically you'll be able to find one that you'll say, that describes me. That is exactly what I am. I'm that kind of a person. So I want you to go ahead and take a minute. Have you got your cards selected? Have you got your colors selected? Because what I want to do is I want to give you a little bit of information about the selection you just made. What I've done is I've provided you just a quick insight into your thinking preferences. I've given you the ability to identify a series of words or word triggers that identify for you, are you upper brained or lower brained dominant? Am I left brain or right brain dominant? The skills that you bring are going to need to come from all 4 quadrants. And you're going to look at this and say, wow, okay, if I'm looking at the analytical quadrant, which is typically called, upper left-hand side, all of those analytical skills, if you take a look over on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the type of disciplines that fall into those characteristics and how far they stretch out. So in the analytical side, the higher you go into the quadrant towards the upper left or towards the end of the screen, the closer you're going to find that you are moving into a high technology area such as scientific or chemical. Now, that doesn't mean that all the other sides don't have high technology teams. If you take a look below the analytical side into the planning side, these are managing skills, these are planning skills, organizing skills. These are skills and disciplines that are required when you start looking at putting together a high technology team. You're going to need people with all 4 quadrants. So you can't just take a group of, I'll call it blue card people, and say, this is the team I want to put together. You have to put together a team that's different than that. It's got to be constructed with disciplines and thinking preferences from all 4 quadrants. You want to create what we refer to as a whole brain team. A high technology team, a successful one, is based upon having not only specific disciplines in one area, but in all 4 of these areas, because you need to have not only the soft skills down in the right lower side and the managing skills and the planning skills that you're going to see in the lower left-hand side, but you're going to need the upper side also to be creative, to be analytical. The 2 of those together is a blending for innovation and entrepreneurship. So when we talk about putting together a high technology team and you start thinking about, if I'm working at a high-tech firm, what do I bring? Remember that you have a thinking preference. Now that doesn't mean you can't think in all 4 of these quadrants, but you have a natural dominance to go in one direction. You need to be able to know that you can go into and flex into all four of these, but that's going to take a little bit of work on your part. Now, when we talk about a performance model, a team-based performance model, there's a series of, I'll call it skill sets, there's a series of what we call descriptors, and a process that you can follow here. So you can start with orientation. You need to understand what is the mission and picture of success and why am I here. So from a team-based performance level, that trust building. Who is with me here and what are the skill sets and competencies we bring to this team? Who can I trust? Who don't I trust? And if I've lost trust, how do I gain that back? Goal clarification. What are the targets, the roles? What's yours? What's mine? You know, from an accountability standpoint, you know, what am I responsible for? Let's get that clarification. The next piece is commitment. A high technology team looks at things and says, how will we work together? Let's get everybody in on working with this. Engineers, designers, manufacturing, quality, any of the people on the floor that do hands-on work for assembly and manufacturing. How do we pull all this together? The planners are talking to all those people. The leaders are talking to all those people. You're responsible for interacting with all those people. That's what a high technology team is. It's that interconnectedness where you're connected to everyone that's working on the same project, on the same program. That's what makes a high technology team. Implementation, number 5. Who does what, when, and where? Understanding that sequence. How do we get that clarification? That's going to come from a different theoretical quadrant than the engineering side. So you can see where, as we're working with this, how we need multiple skill sets that you need to be able to flex and flow from one thinking preference into another. That dominance that you have on one side, you're going to need to be able to explore the other side also. The number 6 piece, high performance. This is the time when we're reading the minds of the other people. Have you ever been in an environment or on a team where you're doing something and there's what we refer to as a battle rhythm? Everything is just working its way through and it's almost to the point where I'm going to need something and you almost like you reached your hand out to pick something up and someone put it there for you. That is that high performance level. It's that seamless support where I'm finishing something when someone else needs it. If I need something, I can pick up the phone, they can give me the information, they can send me the email. I'm getting the documentation I need. It's being released on time. All of that's happening simultaneously and it's happening at the right time. I'm able to put the right people in the right place at the right time and we're doing work and performing at a high level. The next piece is going to be renewal. Just when you think you've got it all figured out, guess what? We change the team around. People get pulled out. New people come in. We've got the person that I've worked with for the last 10 years that was perfect at this job has decided to retire, or I've just been given a new person and they don't theoretically have all the skills I need and we're going to have to grow them into that. How do we bring about that? All these high technology teams, high performing teams are able to pull people in and allow them to bring the best of what they have from a skill set, from a performance set to that high technology team. Now, we've just got through talking about disciplines and we're going to talk about team behavior also. So high technology teams behave differently. Guess what? They're a smaller set of people that have complementary skills. These skills that you bring blend with the skills other people need and there's a natural synergy that happens. That's happening on a high technology team all the time. You've got people who are committed to a common purpose, to a common goal. They understand the performance goals and I hold myself accountable. You hold yourself accountable to what needs to be done. That doesn't mean we don't go trust and verify that people are getting things done, but it means that you're holding yourself accountable for not only your behavior, but the disciplines that you're required to bring. And that may mean that you've got to go ahead and grow into some places that you don't normally grow into. And by that, I mean The leaders in high technology teams shape their teams. They provide them the opportunities to go learn new skills. They provide them the opportunity to work with other people who can mentor them. And there's a continual desire on a high technology team for what we refer to as team performance, that we want to be the best of the best of the best. And sometimes that means that our high technology team might be competing with another high technology team. And it isn't meant in a good versus bad way. It's meant in a camaraderie way, where we are going to try to perform and we're going to try to do the best we can, meet all of our milestones, get everything finished on time, whereas the other team is going to be doing that also. So we're in competition, but we're in a collaborative environment. They may need help from my team. I may be in a matrix organization where I'm going to hand two of my people off at a certain point to help them get across the finish line also. We're looking at how do we all succeed at the same time. It's an exciting environment to be in. High technology teams have got challenges though, especially from a leadership perspective, because it requires what we refer to as a new mindset. You have to create what I'm going to call a new leadership mindset that is based upon disciplines. And those disciplines that you're going to provide for the team are going to be based on creating and maintaining a sense of urgency. That there is an urgent need for us to get done what we're working on. That we're going to resolve any important, critical, or strategic issues. That it's my responsibility to break those barriers, to bust those barriers. We're going to enforce individual accountability. And, if necessary, in the right environment, we're going to leverage what I refer to as executive time, management time. Sometimes it's necessary to go in and talk to the leaders and say, exactly where are we headed? I want to make sure we're aligned correctly. You've given us a strategy. I want to make sure we're following on that. We want to make sure that we leverage the opportunity to have those conversations at all levels. The next thing is we can make tough decisions individually. As an individual, I know the decision that needs to be made. I can make that decision. I can hold myself accountable for it. I don't need to wait for the boss to walk in and say, hey, somebody's supposed to go do this. I need you to go do it. That isn't what's necessary. What we want to do is we want you to be able to make those tough decisions individually. We're also going to leverage the opportunity to pick the best of the best people to work on the right things. There are certain key activities in high-tech environments where there are certain people that have certain skill sets that are at a higher level than others. And we need to understand that we want to leverage those people at the right time to help us finish these tasks. The other thing, as a leader, you need to periodically raise the bar. We're going to work a little harder. Not from a demanding standpoint. I'm going to provide you challenges that are going to make you think that, yes, not only do I want to work on this, but look at what we're going to accomplish. We're going to work on wicked problems. We're going to create revolutionary new ideas. We're going to find a way to do what I may not think we might have been able to accomplish. And that's called raising the bar. I understand your performance level. I'm going to give you some additional challenges. And those are not meant to flood you with more work than you can accomplish. It's meant to give you something to work towards, something to want to achieve. So for this lecture, for these types of skill sets that we're talking about, I've put together a high technology team quiz. And once again, this will be flowed to you during the session, and we're gonna get a chance to kind of take a peek at, you know, what everyone thinks about this. But question one would be, is a plumber, electrician, you know, carpenter, contractor, someone who works building a house on a high technology team? Yes, no, it depends. The next one, question two, does Amazon have high technology teams? What's your opinion? Yes, no? The next one, question three, does the way I think prevent me from being useful on a high technology team? Question four, are different people skills required on a high technology team? And question number 5, and we're going to have you answer this in the poll. So, is my performance and skill discipline important on a high technology team? We're going to get to see the results of those. This has been my lecture for you on high technology teams. I want you to understand that everyone is working in a teaming environment, but there are certain situations with high-tech firms where you have specialty skills that are pulled together onto what we refer to as high technology teams. And these high technology teams sometimes perform at specific levels that are higher than other type of traditional team environments. You need to understand from a leadership's perspective and from a management perspective that you have different skill sets and different challenges that you may need to provide the people, and you need to understand that in a high-tech environment, you as a leader and a manager may need to have that background from a technical perspective. You may need to have certain technical skills, and that may require you to go make sure that you understand some of the skill sets that your team members are working with. Have a great week. This has been the Lesson 4 lecture. Have a great one. Bye-bye.